Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we're looking at the divisibility rule for 4. So if you're ready, let's get started. When looking at the divisibility rule for 4, our rule tells us that if the last two digits are a multiple of 4, then that number will be divisible by 4. But to be able to apply these rules, we must first be able to identify the difference between our multiples and our factors of 4. So let's take a look at the multiples and factors of 4. Now when looking at the factors of 4, it's important to remember that with your factors of 4, these are numbers that we can multiply to get the number 4, or numbers that can divide into 4 without a remainder. So when looking at the different ways that I can multiply to get the number 4, I know that 1 times 4 is equal to 4, and I know that 2 times 2 is equal to 4. And these numbers, which are 1, 2, and 4, are what we call the factors of 4. And it's important to remember that with your factors, the first number is always 1 and the last factor is always the number that you're listing the factors of, which is 4 in this case. So our factors will always be less than the number that we're listing the factors of. Now let's take a look at the multiples of 4. Now when listing the multiples of 4, these are the numbers that are in the 4 time table. So when we look at 4 times 1, this is equal to 4. We have 4 times 2, which is equal to 8, 4 times 3, which is equal to 12, and so on and so forth. And these numbers that are the product of our multiplication are the multiples of 4. So we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on and so forth. Now with our multiples of 4, our numbers can go on to infinity. So that's another difference between the factors and the multiples of 4. The factors of 4 are limited in their amount, but the multiples can go on to infinity. And notice also with your multiples that the multiples of 4 start with 4 and our numbers are increasing. So remember that with your multiples or your 4 times table, the numbers will always be larger than 4. Okay, so now that we've covered the factors and the multiples of 4, let's take a look at applying this rule to some practice questions. Let's look at our number 216. Now in our 4 time table, we saw that when 4 was multiplied to 4, we got the number 16. So based on our rule, because these last two digits are a multiple of 4, that means that this number should be divisible, or I should be able to divide into this without a remainder. So let's check our division to see if our rule is correct. So we're dividing 4 into 216. 4 can't divide into 2 since 2 is less than 4. 4 goes into 21 5 times. 5 times 4 will give us 20. 21 minus 20 gives us a difference of 1. We're going to bring down our 6, changing 1 into 16. 4 goes into 16. 4 times 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 minus 16 is 0. So we can see that 216 is divisible by 4 because its quotient is 54 and we have no remainder. So that means the divisibility rule when it comes to this number is indeed correct. Let's try another example. Let's look at the number 798. Now with 798, oftentimes this is a number like 98. We don't really know the 4 time tables up that high. So we're not sure in looking at this number if 4 is divisible by this number or not. Now if you want, you can probably do a little quick scribble multiplication to see if you can work it out. And when I say quick scribble multiplication, that means we take the number 98 and we take into account the numbers in the 4 time table that will end with 8. And we know that 2 times 4 is 8, but that wouldn't work us out to 98. And then we also know that 4 times 7 is 98. So we can look at 7 being multiplied to 4, and that will give us 28. So we'll have 8 and we'll carry our 2. Now with getting to 98, the only number I can think close that would probably get us there may be 2. But we know that with 4 times 2, that would give us 8, plus 2 would give us 10. So that is going to go over. So with that little quick analysis, that's going to give me a rough idea as to what I'm looking at with the number 98. And I can think that with this timetable, that 98 is not in the 4 timetable. Let's say I didn't want to try the multiplication. Maybe I want to do a quick division on 98 to see if 4 can divide into 98. And you know that with your division, it'll still give you an idea as to how you can divide into this number to see how close you can get to 98. And again, just like my multiplication, my division also was telling me that this number is not in my 4 timetable. So let's just look at our division overall for 798. So with my quick little brief estimation that I did on my numbers, both of them are probably pretty much giving me the idea that this number is going to give me a remainder when I divide into it. So let's just get into the division. So 4 goes into 7 once. 1 times 4 is 4. 7 minus 4 will give us 3. We're going to bring down our 9, change the 3 into 39. 4 goes into 39 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. 39 minus 36 leaves us with 3. We're going to bring down our 8, changing 3 into 38. 4 goes into 38 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. And just as we thought, we have a remainder of 2. So this number 798 is not divisible by 4 because again, my last 2 numbers 98 are not in my 4 timetable. Okay, so let's try a final example, which is our number 29. Now 29 is a fairly easy number to work with because we know that 4 times 7 is going to give me 28. And because I have 28, that tells me definitely that 29 is not in the 4 timetable, which means that I divide this number by 4, I should get a remainder. So 4 can divide into 2. 4 goes into 22 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 22 subtract 20 is give us 2. We're going to bring down our 9, change the 2 into 29. 4 goes into 29 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. And 29 minus 28 leaves us with the remainder of 1. So just as we thought, this number is not divisible by 4. Okay, so let's wrap up our session for today. Okay, so when looking at your divisibility rule for 4, remember that your rule tells you that if the last 2 digits are a multiple of 4, then that number is divisible by 4. And remember that you must be able to identify the difference between your multiples and your factors so that you do not confuse the two when looking at your divisibility rule. So thanks again for watching, and remember that this is Jules Math Tools, where we make math easy.